Hey guys, it's Will at Third and Long. Today we are going to be looking at our Week 10 top 5 games that the team should be on upset alert for. So this is my top 5 games for Week 10 where this ranked team could potentially be getting upset this weekend and needs to be on the lookout. So hit that like button and subscribe and let's get started. So there's a lot of really good games this weekend. There's a lot of potential upset games. There's a lot of teams that could go down. The main team, the first team that I see that should be on upset alert this weekend is the Texas Longhorns. So at 12 p.m. on Fox, we have number 23 Kansas State at 6-2 at number 7 Texas Longhorns at 7-1. Texas is still favored, 3.5-point favorites, and the over-under here is 49.5. The main reason why the Longhorns should be on upset alert is Quinn Ewers is out back-to-back weeks. They said that he'd probably miss about 2 to 4 weeks. That is a massive loss. That is big shoes to fill for the backup. So Malik Murphy did start last weekend. He had kind of a slow half, but he really picked things up the second half, and they won their game. But Kansas State is a very experienced team. They will move the ball, and they will definitely run the ball very well. The big thing that Texas has going for them is they have a top 25 defense. So a quarterback's best friend is a really good defense that will be forcing the other team to go 3 and out and take the pressure off of Murphy. The other thing that he has going for them is he has a very solid running game. Brooks has 923 yards, 7 touchdowns. So one thing that can really help a backup quarterback is a really good run game. That will take a lot of pressure off of him having to throw to get first downs and not being in 3rd and long situations. The next thing he has going for him is he has Worthy at wideout. So if he's forced to have to throw the ball to gain some yards, he has a very trustable wide receiver who's probably a first-round pick at wide receiver. So that's the things that Murphy has going for him. However, that Texas defense will get tired if he goes 3rd and out over and over and over. So they'll start getting wore out second half, and they'll start scoring some points. So Murphy will be definitely tested this weekend. So Texas should be looking out about getting upset. If they lose this game, they're out of the playoff picture, potentially out of the Big 12 championship picture. And just like the Sooners, there is a conceivable situation where neither the Sooners or the Longhorns make the Big 12 championship, which would be pretty crazy since the way that they started this year. But Texas is my number 1 team that should be on upset alert this weekend. The next team that we will be looking at that should be on upset alert is we have number 9 Oklahoma at 7-1 versus number 22 Oklahoma State at 6-2. So Oklahoma is still favored by 6 points, over under 61.5. So they have this game being a shootout. The main reason Oklahoma is on upset alert, 2 weeks ago versus UCF, they barely won that game. That was a sloppy game, and then they followed that up by completely laying an egg last weekend versus Kansas and just getting run on up and down the field. So Oklahoma's defense has let them down the last 2 weeks. They still have a pretty decent defense, but there's some holes there. They don't have the depth that some other teams have. Now the offense, they've been scoring points, but their biggest issue is they have absolutely zero run game. That's a big problem. So their main running back has 350 yards, and it's week 10. So he's on pace for 500 yards? That is not good for a top 10 Division I team. That's actually pretty pathetic. So where's the run game? Jeff Lebby must establish a run game if you want to compete with any of these ranked teams, especially if you have the lead late in the game and you need to run the ball to seal the game. They're not able to do that. That's a massive loss. Defense has holes. Run game is lacking. Dylan Gabriel is a very good quarterback, so that's what keeps them in the game because he single-handedly won that Texas game. Now, for Oklahoma State, this is one of the best running teams in the country. They started out the year really sloppy, but since the first 2 to 3 weeks, they've been on fire. They've been winning games. They've been running the ball really good. So look at Gordon the third there. He's only played a couple games. He has 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's averaging 220 rush yards, the game that he plays. That's probably best in the country right now. So he's the most dynamic running back, and he can also catch the ball out of the backfield. So Oklahoma State, very solid team. They could conceivably run the ball right down Oklahoma's throat and just drain the clock, and Oklahoma basically won't have time for their dynamic offense to get on the field. So that's one reason why Oklahoma should also be on upset alert this weekend. The next team that should be on upset alert, at 7 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 21 Kansas. So 3 Big 12 teams here. Number 21 Kansas is 6-2 versus Iowa State at 5-3. So Iowa State is 2.5-point favorites, over under 53.5. So for Kansas here, Kansas just beat Oklahoma. They haven't had their quarterback Daniels in like 4 weeks. They have a very solid run game, so they can drain the clock. They can keep the ball on the ground and just keep possession of the whole game. Iowa State started out the year really bad. I think they started out like 1-2 or 1-3, and then it just went on a massive win streak. So they sit at 5-3 right now, just outside of the top 25. The main thing Iowa State has going for them, they do not have a good offense, really. It's not bad, but it's efficient. They can kind of run the ball. They can get some passes when they have to, but they're not beating anyone up score-wise. Kind of think of them as the Big 12's Minnesota, basically. But what they have going for them is a really good, solid defense. Matt Campbell always has a solid defense. They are shutting people down. They have a really good defensive line. So it's Kansas's run game, which is a very good run game led by Neal, versus Iowa State's D-line. And Iowa State is actually favored here, even though they're not ranked. They are 2.5-point favorites, over under 53.5. A lot of people are picking Kansas to lose, so they definitely need to be on upset alert as the ranked team who is favored to lose to the unranked Iowa State team. So if they were to lose, they'd get thrown out of the top 25, and Iowa State would probably be taking their place in the top 25. These are pretty evenly matched teams because their strengths go directly against the strength of the other team. Kansas's strength is their run game. Iowa State's is their ability to stop the run. So Kansas could conceivably also lose this game as well. The next game that is a potential upset, and this team should be on upset alert, at 7:30 p.m. on ABC, we have number 5 Washington at 8-0 versus number 20 USC at 7-2. The team that should be on upset alert here is Washington. They are 3-point favorites. The over-under 76.5. That's a massive spread. So they have this game being a complete shootout. Washington, the last 2 weeks, they've left a lot to be desired. Actually, since their win versus Oregon, they've left a lot to be desired on offense and on defense. They had the 15-7 win versus Arizona State, and then they followed that up with a shootout versus Stanford. Yeah, that's right. Stanford was in a shootout with Washington. Washington could conceivably be in the top 4 right now, but it's that defense that's raised a lot of concerns on people. So they started out the year kind of just doing average, and the last 2 weeks they've been stinking, giving up points, giving up yards, not able to shut people down. So Washington really doesn't have a good defense, but nobody's defense is worse than the USC Trojans, which is a complete abomination, basically. They can't stop anyone. They can't tackle. They can't shut people down running, passing. There's massive lanes. So they give up yards and they give up points. Washington, they do have Michael Penix, who's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country right now. 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 picks. This guy can throw on anyone. He has one of the best wide receiver cores led by Odunze. They're solid. They're going to get first downs when they need it. They're going to get long touchdowns when they need it. USC, though, their offense is just as good. This is 2 top 5 offenses in all of college football, led by the reigning Heisman winner, Caleb Williams. They have weapons all over the field. They have a pretty decent run game. Washington actually has 0 run game. They probably have the worst rushing attack of the country, but they do lead the nation in passing at 399 yards per game. But their running game is maybe just a little better, if not worse, than Oklahoma, so it's still pretty bad. But they don't feel that they need to run the ball with their air raid. But USC's offense is just as dynamic. They can throw, they can run, they have really good special teams on kick returns, punt returns. So USC, even though they're number 20, even though they have 2 losses, even though they absolutely have 0 defensive capabilities, their offense puts Washington on a potential upset alert here. They could lose this game in a massive shootout, 40 to 45 type game. They could conceivably lose if they don't score enough points. The next team that should be on upset alert here is going to be at 7:45 on CBS. Number 14 LSU versus number 8 Alabama. LSU comes into this game at 6-2, Bama 7-1. Alabama's 3-point favorites, over under 61.5 on this game. LSU, last game, this game was 24-24, went into overtime, and LSU won it on the 2-point conversion. Alabama, this is not as good of an Alabama team as years past. People keep saying that LSU has 0 chance to win this game. And the way that I see it is, what are you watching? Why do you think they have 0 chance to win this game? This is not the best Bama team. This is the worst Bama team we've seen in 10 to 15 years. They're a very good team, one of the top 3 talented rosters, but this team would get blown out by any other Bama team. So Bama lost to LSU last year by a team that's 10 times better than this team, and they lost. And that whole LSU team came back. So they had Bryce Young. They were loaded with weapons on offense and defense. Bryce Young, first-round pick, they lost to LSU. They lost to Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels is back. He's having a way better year than last year. He's the leader in the Heisman race to me right now. This is his moment to potentially capture the Heisman and take over that race. This team is loaded on offense. Daniels, Diggs at running back, Neighbors. They have a very solid wide receiver core. Their defense, though, leaves a lot to be desired. Their defense is garbage. They've been really bad. They've given up a lot of blowouts this year. However, the last 3 weeks since they got blown out by Ole Miss, they've actually played pretty decent. And they will definitely be up and be physical for this game because LSU's roster is so talented. Unlike other teams, they're not scared to play Alabama. They actually look forward to playing Alabama, especially since they lost to them last year. Alabama, do not overlook them, though. This is a very talented roster. They have Milroe. They don't have a rushing game. That's their problem. Bama's always known for their rushing game. They do not have the running game. They do not really have a passing game. They only average 350 yards of offense per game. 350 yards of offense per game. Some teams score that in the first half. So that's a 1990 offensive performance number, not a 2023 number. They really need to get those numbers up against a very physical team that will be looking to shut down Bama's rushing game and bottle them up. Nick Saban's basically kryptonite is a mobile quarterback that can throw the ball. Think of Deshaun Watson, Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow. Someone that can scramble, throw some passes downfield, but scramble when they get flushed out for first downs. That's Jayden Daniels. He can throw. He's one of the best passers in the country. Very good completion percentage. But when he's forced out of the pocket under pressure, he can scramble for first downs. But while he's scrambling, he's still looking downfield. So he's still looking to throw the ball. That's what made the difference last year. And that could potentially make the difference this year as well. So that's why Alabama should also be on upset alert. So that's a quick breakdown of the top 5 games where the team should be on upset alert for Week 10 of the 2023 college football season. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.